Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of my Minecraft map making series. This episode we're going to be taking a look at some of the stuff to do with Cube Control 2. I think I said in the previous episode that I needed your feedback on something, but I need to kind of explain what Cube Control 2 is going to be like. So I've got a question to ask you involving a big decision that I need to make, and also you can see here I've developed some redstone circuits, so I thought I would give you an explanation of what these things are. So Cube Control 1, it was a lot of fun to make obviously, and I had a lot of fun playing it, and other people did as well, but it did have its flaws. I think the main problem was the thing that made it unique kind of made it a little bit grindy to play sometimes as well, especially if you were in a team of people who weren't going to work as a team. You'd probably end up just rushing over and over again. So the idea was that you'd go out into each of the individual cubes to gather different resources, and that in itself was what made it unique, but also a little bit grindy. So what I thought I would do with Cube Control 2, among a whole load of other things I'm not going to reveal straight away, is to streamline that process so that those materials, rather than you going to a cube to get them, they come to you when you control the cube. So in Cube Control 2 we are going to have a control system, which is what I built here. Now when I built this, I didn't know about the syntax for a radius from a command block being you can basically point it at a location and say scan for a radius around there. I always thought that you could only scan for a radius around the command block, so that is why all of this is built in the cube, and that means that we might not have to do that. Well, I know that we won't have to do that anymore, but this system I'll show you in a moment. So now you're going to be able to capture cubes, so the items will be delivered to you at your main base. So say for example the apple one over there, when you come into the region of the apple cube, you'll get a message saying you've taken control of it or something like that, and then you'll get apples spawning back at your base. So it takes away the grindiness of it. It also makes it a bit more I was about to say strategic. Strategic is the word I'm looking for. Because it kind of be like fighting over territory, which I think could work really well. You know, as another team progresses into your side, you got to make sure you hold all of your cubes and push them back, because otherwise they're going to start getting stronger and stronger the more of your resources they are gathering. So when you capture another team's cube, you can also take their resources as well. So the big decision that I need to make is, what do the cubes need to look like? Now, the pixel art was a big thing for me. I think it's important to have some sort of visual thing or identity to go along with your map, so that people can, you know, it sticks in their mind basically. It's something that they remember, and it's not often that you play a map where there's giant pixel art of all the items that are in the game everywhere, which is kind of what I went for with the original one. There was an element of that in there, but in this one I want it to be all about that, so that has kind of influenced my decision with what items you're going to be able to get from the cubes as well, which actually turned out to be a good thing, I think, because we removed some of the I don't know, the very essential items, for example cobblestone, and I need to put that back. Don't know why I clicked then. Cobblestone is essential once you have sticks for making tools, and glowstone is needed to light everything up, because Cube Control 2 is going to be played at night. It will always be night time, and maybe I'll add some sort of potion effect so it makes it easier to see as well, or maybe I'll just rely on glowstone being placed down. But I'm getting a little sidetracked here. Yeah, the pixel art for cobblestone and wood, as you can see over there, I tried to use wool, which is why it looks a bit thunky. I didn't really like, so I thought, right, we're just going to go with items that you can get rather than the actual blocks themselves. So these are the cubes that I developed first of all for the pixel art to go on, and basically they are really big, and I kind of like how they look and kind of don't, but the main problem for me is when you go inside these, there is absolutely nothing that needs to be put in here. This space down here is no longer needed, because we can scan these areas from a distance. All of that sort of stuff will be kept in the spawn chunks so that they are always loaded, and so you're going to have these big empty cubes, which makes me think I want to make them smaller. Now another reason that I would like to make them smaller is because you have to space these at a certain distance from each other, so that, you know, there's a bit of a challenge to get from one to the other. However, because they're larger, when you have them close together like this, I don't think it would work too well, so you'd have to space them out further. And the further out you space them, then the more tedious the game can become. You know, you want your teams to be able to put up a quick bridge between two locations and be able to defend that, so they can get between their cubes. And with these size cubes, I don't know, it feels like maybe it's too big, and also the obsidian is a bit dark as well. So the opinion and thoughts that I wanted is basically what cubes to go with. I've been stuck on this decision for ages and I haven't worked on the map since because I really want to get the cubes in position so I can start building everything else, and it's very important that I make the right decision now so later on I'm not going, do you know what, I really don't like these big cubes and I need to change them and take them back, which is something that I don't want to do. So I'm wondering, should I go for these smaller cubes that are like this sort of size? I'm not sure what material we would have on the side so that you could break into them. Maybe I could come up with some sort of pattern and also some blocks that are a reward. So for example, if you're going into the iron one, maybe there's a couple of blocks of iron on the side as you get for a bonus for being the first to arrive there. Something like that. But the idea is that you'd have smaller cubes and then the pixel art would be on top of them, which could look pretty strange. And I also thought when you look at it from the other side, it will look completely different as well. Now another thought that came to mind is that mobs will be able to spawn on the top of this, and in cube control the idea in the first one is that there's nowhere that mobs can actually spawn because everything's made out of bedrock, and when players start neglecting lighting up the pathways, that's when mobs are able to spawn. And I want to keep that in the game. It's not as tedious now because you'll have glowstone always readily available at your base. So what I could do for the top bit here is just make this small section a mushroom biome and then nothing would ever spawn on the top of that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you really. What do you think? Do you like the big cubes or the small ones? Do you have any other ideas? Just leave a comment in the comment box. Let me know your thoughts, opinions and ideas because I really want to move on beyond this point and get this done. So after explaining that, it does sound a little bit ridiculous that I would get stuck on such a thing, but there's an insight into my map making. You know, if I'm unsure on a decision, I tend to, you know, wait as long as I can, really make up my mind about what I want to do, because the next thing to do from that point is to start building the map around the positions of the cube, because I'm going to lay them out in a grid, put down all the relative ones in the correct positions, and then start building the map from there. So it is actually quite an important thing to do. So this next system right here is a capture system. I'm really proud of this. It was a lot of fun to make and it took a while as well, and this was one of the first things that I've done recently with my map making, so it's kind of out of date. As I said, you know, you can now tell it to detect from a certain point. So in the future all of these different command blocks that are detecting with a radius are just going to detect from the very center of the cube, and those command blocks will be in an unloaded chunk. They'll be in the spawn chunks where they'll always be loaded. So how does this work? Well, we have two gates on either side. If you have a look here, we've got 3 command blocks going into these blocks that create a gate. It's a custom gate. I'm not sure if you'd have a name for it, but it's pretty easy to understand. And then we have 2 outputs for that. So we have this one over here, and it's powered at the moment, and when it becomes unpowered it's not going to use that command block, and then we have the other one on this side. So there are 3 conditions that need to be met in order for this gate to activate, which would mean that a team is trying to capture the cube. So first of all, this cube is called B1 and the blue team controls it at the moment, so this is giving us an output, which means our gate at the end here is turned on, and it's when this turns off that the torch here turns on. So that condition is met. It means we can't capture the cube because we already have captured it. So this one here means that a blue team mate has to be in the area. So you can see where I have a repeater here, it just depends on the signal flow. In this case we just need to invert that because we need to be in the area to capture it, and if we're not like that, you can see it's going to power the output. And then the last one here is that it checks for an orange teammate. So if an orange teammate is also in the area, then it's going to output a signal meaning that you can't capture it. So let's say that all of those conditions are met, and I'm going to give you a quick example and then an explanation. I've just reset the fact that and you can barely see it because I'm not really prepared. Let's do that again. I need to go to multiplayer settings, turn up the opacity. Okay, and are we controlling it yet? I think it's going to take a second. There you go, you see it says blue capturing. I think that's supposed to say blue captured. Or did I move out of the radius of the detection? Yeah, blue captured cube. Okay, so let's start that again. That was terrible. Right, what I'm going to do when I press this button is I'm going to reset the fact that I control the blue, this cube here, because I am on the blue team. You see my name is blue, and so then all the conditions of this are met when I move in range, and the output changes over. So the first command block just says that blue is capturing, and this is very basic. It will be detailed in the final thing, you know, to say what cube is being captured and all of that sort of stuff. And now I have captured the cube as well. So after it said that message, what it then does is it sets this value which is CB. This is the important thing, because that means that blue is capturing, and then when blue has captured this, as you can see over here, this would turn on, then this command block over here would power again, and it would reset that value. So all of this that I'm explaining here, by the way, is the same on the other side except for the orange team. So you can see that there is no orange teammate, so that that torch there always stays on, and then when I'm in range it turns on this one here, so none of that ever activates. So the next thing to note is that when this thing right here has been set, that capturing blue system then goes all the way over here to this timer. Now this was shown to me by a friend of Nox, whose name I cannot pronounce. I always forget how to pronounce it. It's got a strange spelling, so sorry to you if you're watching this, but this is a really cool thing he shared with me. This is a timer for a cooldown system. Now, I built some of these before. Let's go have a look at one over here. So the problem with what I originally built was that, let's say I'm trying to capture this and the orange teammate comes into range, then it cancels out the gate here, but then when they move back away again, it then sets the value back. So over here you have a test for on that, and it gives you an output, and so the signal starts to travel through the delay, and then let's say the orange teammate comes back in, so you can no longer capture it, but then they move out again. When they move out the second time, this signal can still be travelling, and then it can meet up with this AND gate and you can capture the cube. So what he showed me here allows you to do is make it so that the cooldown is reset every time another teammate comes into that area. And the way that this works is, let's see, there's a torch here, so it's powering the top and the bottom as well. So the bottom, if you have a look at the repeaters, that's our long delay. This right here is when we're capturing blue, so when that's happening, this turns off, which means all of these repeaters down the bottom here slowly unpower. And at the same time, the repeaters on the top, they unpower very quickly because they have 1 tick delay each. And you can see that all of them are powering the dots of redstone between each bit here. So let's say it's powered down, it's almost at the end, these repeaters here are starting to power down, but then it turns back on, i.e. An orange teammate enters the area, then this wire up here gets powered, and then all of these repeaters here power really quickly, and they are powering all of the blocks below them, meaning that all of these turn back on. So yeah, it's a basic cooldown reset system. And then in the case that the orange teammate doesn't go in there and the blue teammate's just standing there and they capture it just fine, then you can see here it sets the B1, which is the name of the cube, to be controlled by the blue team. It resets, yeah, that's the same cube but orange controlling it, and then it says that blue has captured cube. So you can see how all of that works. I'm actually going to see if I can grab someone to come on here and give you a demonstration of it in action. So no one else is around at the moment. I thought I'd bring on myself. I've got my second computer running, and so I'm on the blue team, xisumavoid is on the orange, and no one is controlling this cube. So I'm going to move into the middle area here and activate this, and you can see that blue is capturing, and now xisumavoid is going to move over here and it's going to block me from capturing it. So you can see there it reset the value. So now what I'm going to do is move out of this area, and then orange will start to capture, and then I'm going to move in and block that, and you can see there, because we can see the command blocks, we can see that that's been blocked. But now if I move away completely, and then we just wait for the circuitry over there to unravel, if you like, then orange is going to capture this cube. There we go, orange has captured the cube. So now I'm going to come in here. I can't do anything because xisumavoid controls it, and now xisumavoid is going to move away, and we're going to take control of this. So blue is now capturing, and yeah, just a matter of time and then we would have captured the cube. There you go, awesome. So here we are back in the template world for all of our future maps. Last time we were here I just started doing the system where we have the areas for the teammates to go into, and I said that I would finish off as much of this as I can, and you know what, I think I've done absolutely everything there is. There's like 1 or 2 tiny little things that I need to investigate, but other than that, pretty much every system here is fully developed, and it's also all been tested as well. We had a load of wonderful people come on here and help test with me, and this thing was excellent. It didn't ever break, it worked just fine. Well, a couple of things broke, however we were able to fix them, so now everything works just fine. So I've got quite a few things to explain to you. First of all, let's start off with this over here, because this is relevant to pretty much everything that I've implemented. This is the admin controls, and if we go over here, we have a control panel, which admittedly is poorly built. I kind of started off with one idea in mind, which was to have two outputs, the on and the off, when really we could have just had one lamp to represent whether it was on or off rather than two like that. But basically for everything that there is, the captain randomizer and selection system, being able to join a team, have a team randomizer, you can swap and leave teams when you're in them, set your status to ready to start the game, the different modes as well, like mini games and things like that. You can control people's access to them over here. So let's say we want to use the randomizer system, then you could turn that on just by hitting that button. You can see it swaps over, and so the way that this works is we are setting an override score, and that each one has its own name. Captain System R, and not, oh yeah, R is for random, I remember now. And then here you just have Captain System, and so we are overriding their ability to be used elsewhere in the redstone and all of that. And just at this bit here, we are testing for them so we can output a signal onto this redstone lamp, and that is why the redstone here looks a little funky. And I'm not really going to go into too much detail into explaining this, because I think what I should really do is rebuild it. It is a little unnecessarily built, but one thing that is important here is that these repeaters activate a T flip-flop here, because that is going to send a 1-tick pulse to this piston, which will leave the block like that in either this position or that one there, and then it unpowers and powers this redstone, and you can see the top is either powered or unpowered. So when this unpowers, nothing's going to happen, but when this gets powered, these command blocks are going to activate, so it cycles between the two of them. So we have a message to say if it's either been disabled or enabled, and we have a reset value to the player name Captain System R, and then we can apply the data again to that player name. And by the way, some people have said, what if someone logs in with a name _ Captain System R? Won't that break the map? This actually doesn't even matter. I could type in the name xisuma in there, since I'm always on here, and it would never break, because we're applying a data value to that name, and at no other point does anything that I do interact with that same data value, which is called data. I could give that another name. If we were to call it score, and we also use the dummy value score in our system for getting gold, then maybe it could affect it, but otherwise it doesn't. So this is brilliant, and I think I might in future maps just remove the whole underscore thing before it and say exactly what it is. I just added that in as an extra deterrent from someone logging in with the same name. So yeah, these things just override all of the different options that you have. It means if you're the admin of the game and you're playing with some friends, you want to set up the map for them to play, or maybe even you've got a public server and you need to just disable certain things so that people don't mess around, and yeah, the games are unable to get underway. So you're playing with friends, you can set it up so you can use the custom teams, people can use the randomizer, etc., or the captain randomizer. You get exactly what I'm saying, I'm sure. And then the other bit that it controls are these, so you can stop people going into the mini games and the observer mode. So with that out of the way, let's move on to where we left off last episode. I just placed in these rooms for each of the teams. Now you can only get into this room if you're on the orange team, meaning that at any point you're able to get teleported inside this room, you will be on the orange team, and that is very important. That is one way of securing how this system works, because when we want to teleport all of these teammates out of here, we might have other players standing around outside. So we need to make sure they're all on the same team and the people outside aren't. And to do that, it means that when we teleport a player in and out of a room, we also have to change their team. So that was the system that I was working on at the end of the last episode, and that has turned out to be a very useful system right here. So I'm going to give you a little explanation of this. Everything else I'll explain, a bit with a little less detail, I guess you could say, but this thing right here I think is going to be very useful to you if you're building maps yourself. So you have a pressure plate the other side of that. When a player stands on it, and remember, if they're in that room, they're going to be on the orange team, they're going to set off this torch and unpower this part of the RS NOR latch. Now for the moment we are going to ignore the override here, so ignore this repeater. This torch is going to turn on and then power this block here. So this torch will turn off, and then anyone else who steps on the pressure plate and turns on this block, it doesn't set off any of the redstone after it. So when this torch is turned on, we're going to power this command block, which teleports teleplates. I've mixed the two words together there. Teleports anyone who's on the pressure plate, which is those coordinates right there, and they're in the orange team and all the correct modes and stuff like that. It's going to teleport them into this tube over the back here. So it picks up a player, puts them in a tube, they stand on a pressure plate, it activates this command block, which will then take the player in the tube and put them in the blue team. And this was the important thing I was talking about a moment ago. When we move the players around, we also need to change their teams, which is why we're using this system, so we don't just target a player who's standing here and change their teams, because if two players stand there at the same time, we might get the wrong player and teleport someone who's still on orange into the other side, and then there'll be a blue teammate standing in this side. So once it's done that, the signal then it teleports them onto the blue team, and then it will power this block here. So this bit was powered, the torch here was powered, and this would be unpowered when this signal comes along. So it would then swap the T flip-flop back into the state that it is at the moment, and then that means anyone who's standing on the pressure plate can then activate it and start the sequence all over again. So that system has been tested a lot and it works really well. We've tried loads of people, jumping on the pressure plates at the same time, and you can't break it really. The only way you can break it is if you go into that room and you're not in the correct game mode or on the correct team, because then it won't pick you out to teleport you, and then the RS null latch will become broken. However, you can only get into that room when you're on the correct team. So yeah, it's been well and truly tested and it works really well. And so I told you to ignore the override. The override right here has two things, as you can see. We have the swap teams thing right here, so if we were to turn that on over there, then this thing would turn off and it would allow us to use this. And the other one that we have is another override for in-game. So I thought when the game is in session, it should have its own little label right here, so then we can apply that to all of the different things that we want to override and lock. And I might remove this because it seems a little silly to add it to these things, where really what you need to add it to is the captain system and the join team system as well. So you stop players from then starting new teams and going into this area here, because otherwise they're not going to have access to it, so you don't need that there. And if we go over here, I've added this thing as well. It's really simple to understand. We're just checking for that, and in the case that that is actually in game and the game is in session, then it's going to change the redstone here. This torch is going to turn on and it's going to override this from being activated, which is what will happen when you press the button on the other side. So let's go around here. Some of the other systems, I'm going to skip through them quickly. We've got the RS null latch system again for people who want to join teams. And then over here we have the Reefy system. So you have an AND gate here. One side of it is the override for orange ready, so you can control if they're able to set the status to ready or not, and so that will power one side of the AND gate. And then here you can see if they stand on the pressure plate, they will activate this, which is orange ready, and that is then checked for up here so it can turn on the lamp, and the same for blue ready. So the same system exists on the other side over there. Then we have a randomizer, again an AND gate with the control thing for the admin controls over there to override it. But what it will do is when it's set off, it will teleport all the players who are in pre-game into this little tube here. Now I've used a clock, and normally I'm against using this. However, it seems to be really stable. When the command blocks first came out and I was using them with clocks, it didn't work very well, but now it seems to be just fine. So if we stand on the pressure plate when the players get teleported in there, we turn off this part of the redstone, which means the torch turns on. So then it looks for a player in the tube, a random one, and then it joins them to the blue team, if they're in the pre-game team that is, and then it does the same thing again. If they're in the pre-game team, it joins them to the orange team. So it's important that it does check that they're in the pre-game, so by chance you don't then put a player into the blue team and that same player gets picked to be put into the orange team. So then after we've done that, we teleport the blue team player out and the orange team player out, and they go into their respective sides, and then the clock just continues and it stops when there's no players left in there. And that actually worked really, really well. When we were testing it, I was accidentally teleporting players one block lower, and they were getting teleported into this block here, and they would all just shuffle out of the side, and it looked really weird, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. And then someone in the game pointed out the answer to us, which was really cool. Another cool reason to do testing with other people is that lots of people can give you their input and solutions, And yeah, and then when we raised it, it worked absolutely fine. So I don't think there's too much more to show you. If we go around to this side here, you can see this is one big AND gate. Again, you have the player standing on the pressure plate on this side. You have from down below the override from our admin controls over there, and then from up the top you have, if you see, it comes from all the way over this side, you have the in-game status as well. So the in-game status is set when the game starts. Over here we have blue is ready, orange is ready, and when both of them are, it then sets off the AND gate, so it says let the games begin. It teleports the players to the location, which I haven't decided yet, I've just put that there. Does that for both teams, and then it says, it resets the blue is ready value, same for orange on the other side, so we set it back to normal, and that means when the game is over, when we come back here, all of that stuff will be ready to play again as well, which is cool. And then it sets in-game here, and that's when it locks out all the other things from being used as well. And that's something that I might modify. I don't think maybe it's the best idea to have it on some things like this, like mini games. For example, if you log in when other people are in the middle of a game, you might want to go play on the mini games for a bit, which would be, I don't think it's going to interfere with anything over there, so I might add that. And then very last of all, it has been very talky, I know. I've been doing tons of work, I've been ill, so I haven't been able to record the progress as I go along. I fixed this, and I can't remember what it is that I'd done. Okay, yeah, so if you see, we've got the effect for all the players in that area to have mining fatigue. That has been applied at this point here, so every time it checks for anything else, it's always going to apply that. That means every player will get mining fatigue when they join the game. I don't think I changed too much around here. I realised that my logic wasn't actually that bad. That joins them to the pre-game team, and then this one takes the pre-game player and teleports them in. Yeah, so that's all of the logic done. They will get the mining fatigue effect, they get assigned to the pre-game team, and then if they're on the pre-game team, they get teleported in. So if you just look at, each time this turns on and off, they're going to get applied to the pre-game team, and then that one, so it gives this one plenty of time to affect all the players in that region with mining fatigue. So I thought that I would need to rebuild the system, then I just realised, hey, if I move that block over here, then it's going to work just fine. So yeah, as I mentioned a moment ago, I've been ill. I've been doing a lot of work on this, so there's been a lot of talk in this episode. In the next one, I think we're going to start work on Gold Rush, and I'm going to be progressing on Cube Control 2 as well when I get your feedback. I'm thinking of doing a tutorial on this. This wasn't made by me as well, so I need the creator's permission. But this is the book delivery system as well, which has also been implemented. So when you join the game, you can just pick up a book that'll have some instructions or tell you about, what you can do, etc. And oh look, looks like I found a bug with it. That is not good. Okay, so I need to fix that as well by the looks of it. But yeah, that is something that I might do a separate tutorial on. So, I outlined what I wanted to do next episode. I also want to apologise if this episode was a little boring. Being ill got in the way of being able to record as I go along, and then it just means some really drony talking about what's going on. But if you're a map maker or you're just interested in this stuff, hopefully you found it entertaining, and I think from this point out things are going to be real interesting, and I'm really pleased with all of what we've done so far. I'm not sure if I pointed it out already, but this is modular, meaning if I want to come back later on and work on the minigame system or something like that, I can simply copy and paste it into all of the maps all at once, because I want to convert all of them into this system. So that is about all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for watching as always, and I will catch you next time.